Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. As you can tell by the title, today's video is going to be a demo and review on the brand new Maybelline Superstay Full Coverage 24-Hour Wear Foundation. So as you guys can see, I have already used quite a fair bit of this foundation. I've been testing it out for these past few weeks ever since I hauled it in a previous video, and I've been really putting it to the test. I've been wearing it almost every single day under different primers, with different concealers, different powders, just really testing the wear of it, the formula, and everything like that. So what really intrigued me about this foundation is I recently tried out their Superstay liquid lipsticks, and I fell in love with them right away. So then I knew I needed to pick up the foundation because it's part of the same line, and I was really interested in it. And the fact that it said up to 24 hours was like, let's see if this actually works. So this foundation ranges from about $12 to $15 depending where you find it and what drugstore. But this does come in 16 shades, which I would say is pretty good. It's not the best. Obviously, we can get a lot more shades in there, but compared to some other brands, I would say the shade range is pretty good, and there's a good chance that you'll find a shade that matches you. Now, I'm in the shade 112 Natural Ivory, and I would say this is more of a neutral tone foundation shade with a tiny bit of yellow tones in it. So it's not full on like yellow undertones, but it does have more yellow undertones than pink undertones. So that's kind of just talking about the shade range itself. Now this foundation does come in a glass bottle, which I really like. I actually really love the packaging of it with the white, and it's really simplistic and I really like it. And then you also get a pump, which you guys know I love when foundations come in pumps. I think it's way more sanitary than if it comes in a stick form or anything like that. And yeah, pumps are definitely my favorite packaging, so I really like that. This foundation comes with 1 fluid ounce, 30 milliliters, which is usually the standard size of a foundation bottle. So I think that's pretty good, and for the price, I definitely think it's worth it. So now talking about the actual formula of the foundation, this is a full coverage foundation. You definitely can make it more sheer to a medium coverage if you apply less, obviously. If you apply it with a brush or beauty blender and just apply less product, like maybe half a pump or something, you'll get light coverage or medium coverage depending on how much product you use. I usually use like 2 pumps of this foundation and I get really full coverage. And if I need to cover anything else, it's definitely buildable, which is amazing because some foundations, you try to build them up and it just doesn't work. It starts to cake, it starts to kind of crease on your skin and like cling to dry patches and stuff. This foundation doesn't do that, which is amazing. Now, you guys can see in the demo right here that I did apply it onto half of my face with the sponge. I'm just using the EcoTools sponge, and I think it works very well with a damp beauty blender or sponge. This is my favorite way to apply this foundation. I just think sponges are so quick and easy, and I was really happy to see that this foundation isn't one that the sponge absorbs, so I can get really full coverage with using a beauty sponge, and I can get most of my face done with a pump and a half around there. And if I want more coverage, I usually add a bit more and build it up. And then on the other side of my face, I did use a brush. It does apply nicely, there's no streaks, it blends out beautifully with a brush as well. So I don't think there's one particular tool that makes this foundation better or worse, so you can definitely apply it with whatever you have at home. My preference is with a beauty blender, but that of course is up to you, what you like to apply your base products with, and for me that's a sponge. So then I also wanted to show you guys how concealer layers over top of this, and it blends beautifully in with the foundation. It doesn't sit on top of the foundation, it just all melts into one. And then I usually just set it with a loose powder. Now what I was really happy to see is this foundation does have a natural finish to it, so it's not dewy by any means, but it's not matte either. I think this is a perfect middle of the road foundation that dry skin or oily skin or combo skin or normal skin people can use. So it's great overall, and depending on what products you use with it, if you use a lot of powder, it's going to definitely make it really matte. If you don't use any powder, you'll get that natural finish and a bit of glow if you add some highlighter or some setting spray or something. So that's what I love about it. It's such a versatile foundation, and depending on the day and what look I want, I can definitely use other products to make this foundation look how I want it to look. Now, the fact that it is a natural finish foundation, I was kind of skeptical for it lasting so long on my skin because it's not that super sturdy matte foundation. It does kind of let your skin breathe a little, but I was really happy to see that this foundation does last a really long time. Now, I did not test it for 24 hours. I never have my makeup on for that long, but this is the foundation I've been wearing every time I need to go out somewhere, and I know I'll be out for more than 12 hours. So I have worn this foundation like up to 16 hours and it wore perfectly. Of course, with any foundation, I usually get some breakage right around my nose right here and right on the tip of my nose, but that's normal with any foundation. But anywhere else, this foundation still looked perfect, flawless, and with a little bit of touching up, you can definitely make it look even better around those trouble areas. It didn't dry my skin out, and I have dry skin, so that was great, and it didn't like exaggerate any of my dryness, any of my texture, anything like that. It looked beautiful on. Another great thing about this is I do have like an oily T-zone, and I did notice that after about 8 hours of wear, it did start to get a little oily in the T-zone. Now, a great way to fix that is just grab any compact powder and kind of pack it on with either your sponge or a brush, and that's the perfect way to kind of fix that situation. So it's really easy to touch up this foundation, which is great because a lot of foundations I have noticed, you apply them, they start to wear off, you try to touch them up, and they just don't look as good when they're touched up as they did when you apply it. I don't have any problems with this foundation, which makes me really, really happy. So one kind of con I do have to say about this foundation is it does oxidize just a little bit, but the good part about it is that it oxidizes right away. So you don't have to worry about you applying it and then after a few hours it oxidizing, and all of a sudden you look in a mirror a few hours later and your face is a different color than your neck or chest. So you don't have to worry about that because it does oxidize right as you are applying it. So once you're done blending it out, it already has become the color it's going to be for the rest of the day. I would just say kind of watch out when you're kind of at the drugstore picking this foundation out, because obviously while you're at the drugstore there's not many testers, so you can't really tell what shade is yours. So this one, as you can see, compared to my face, it is a little lighter in the bottle than what it is on my skin. So I would say this does oxidize about half a shade to a shade darker, so keep that in mind when you are purchasing this foundation. Now, I did notice that after a few hours I would see it kind of sink into my smile lines, and that's kind of normal. I always get that with foundations, so I would just make sure that when I'm applying in the morning I take my powder and really set around my smile lines so that kind of didn't happen as much. I have tried this with many different primers. I've tried it with pore filling primers, smoothing primers, mattifying primers, illuminating powder primers, everything like that, and it works perfectly with all of them. This foundation, you don't really need a primer on. Actually, I have worn it without a primer too, and I don't find that the longevity of it is really affected. I think it still wears really nicely without one. Just make sure you are applying a good moisturizer underneath. I've actually been really loving this Jameson Pro Vitamin E Fresh Youthful Hydrating Gel Cream. This is like a moisturizer that kind of leaves your skin kind of tacky, so it's great for applying foundation over top. That's really my thoughts on this foundation, guys. I think it's a great one to pick up. Definitely one of my new favorites, as I have been wearing it every single day, and I've really been liking it. It's definitely one of my new favorites from the drugstore, which is really exciting. You guys know how much I love reviewing foundations and finding a great one for you guys to try out for a more affordable price, in my opinion. So this one's a great one right here. Great for the price, and I definitely highly recommend it to any of you out there looking for a very long wearing, great coverage foundation that's really inexpensive as well. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this, and hopefully this video was helpful to any of you interested in this foundation. And if you already have tried this foundation, let me know your thoughts on it down below. I'd love to hear some of your guys' opinions. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little review on the new Maybelline foundation. Hopefully this video was helpful to any of you interested in it. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.